Okay, so when you think of ancient Egypt, you probably picture, mummies, grand pyramids, maybe those stoic-looking pharaohs.
Right, that's the standard image we all have.
But what if we told you there's a side of their civilization that's been literally hidden away for centuries? A side that reveals they were just as human, just as passionate, and maybe even more explicit than we've ever imagined.
Hmm.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into the fascinating and sometimes, shocking world of ancient Egyptian sexuality.
And our source material is pretty rich for this. We're looking at a key documentary, expert interviews, some incredible archaeological finds.
Yeah, things that are really going to challenge what you thought you knew.
Absolutely. And what's truly remarkable here, I think, is how one specific artifact, the Turin Erotic Papyrus found over a century ago, has become this kind of key. It
Right.
just cracks open a window, into the intimate messages hidden in the symbols, the codes, the clues of this ancient society.
So our mission today is to sort of unpack this 3,000-year-old mystery, try to decipher its real meaning.
And hopefully gain a really intimate view of what was actually happening, between the sheets back then.
Exactly. So what does all this mean for how we see one of history's most iconic civilizations? Let's dive in and find out.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our journey really kicks off in 19th century Egypt, near the Valley of the Kings, famous place.
Legendary, yeah.
And that's where this extraordinary discovery happened. A fragile pot,
Mm-hmm.
and inside, what would become known as the Turin Erotic Papyrus.
A 3,000-year-old document. And the descriptions, well, experts call it full-on pornography.
Graphic, explicit, even by today's standards.
Absolutely. It shows 12 ordinary men and women in these very explicit sexual positions. It's incredibly rare.
So if these images are that explicit,
Huh.
how does this one discovery change how we think about ancient Egypt?
Well, it fundamentally challenges that perception, doesn't it? We tend to imagine the Egyptians as, much more buttoned up and repressed.
Right.
But this papyrus suggests that's, well, completely wrong. In reality, they were apparently a very sensuous, sensual society. Being an actively sexual creature was actually very, very important.
Wow. But for centuries, this Papyrus 5501, that's its official name, it was kept out of sight, wasn't it?
Oh, completely. Locked away in museum libraries. You needed special registration, a very good reason to even see it.
And for a long time, only men could access it.
That's right, which really points to a significant historical cover-up, you could say.
Definitely.
And if you connect that to the bigger picture, historically speaking, it becomes pretty clear. While, the Greeks and Romans, they had this reputation for being lustful societies.
Yeah, we see their explicit stuff everywhere, like on pottery or tombs.
Exactly. Erotic scenes on their dinner services or bestial action on tombstones, as the source mentions. But the full picture of ancient Egypt was actively obscured.
How so?
Historians, even religious institutions, deliberately censored sexual artifacts. Think about the Pope ordering fig leaves on statues.
Right.
Or even the phallus being removed from statues of Min, the fertility god.
Wow. At the Petrie Museum, they apparently even covered Min's phallus on wall inscriptions with a museum number.
No way, just painted over it.
Seems like it. It shows a real deliberate effort to sanitize ancient Egyptian sexuality for later generations.
And what's really interesting, maybe even a bit shocking, is that some sexual images still remain hidden, even now.
Yeah.
Close to where the Turin Papyrus was found, on the west bank of Thebes, there's this 3,000-year-old archaeological site, still kept secret from the thousands of visitors who go there.
What's there?
It contains what might be the oldest piece of sexual graffiti in the world.
Seriously, oldest in the world.
Potentially. And it depicts Hatshepsut, one of the few female rulers,
Yes, a major figure.
in a sexually explicit position, being taken from behind by someone thought to be Senenmut, her steward, maybe her lover.
Wow. How do they know it's her?
Clues like the Nemi's headdress, apparently a clear sign of royalty. It strongly points to her.
Okay, that's fascinating. But the risk,
Yeah.
the artist who drew that.
Huge risk, right? Absolutely massive. Creating an image like that of the queen,
Mhm.
a serious no-no. It was likely the artist showing distaste, maybe, at the fact that they did have a female king.
Because it went against their idea of order.
Wow.
Mott.
Exactly. It went against the laws of Mott. So this graffiti, it gives us this raw, uncensored glimpse of everyday life. And a unique window into how those tomb workers actually thought about sex, expressed in a way that was completely different than they were allowed to show in the temples and tombs.
And you mentioned it looks similar to the Turin Papyrus.
Yeah, surprisingly, one of the poses seems very similar to one of the 12 positions on the Turin Papyrus, which might suggest that the papyrus also could have been some kind of slanderous message, or maybe just reflects common themes.
Interesting. So, okay. If the graffiti was maybe a message targeting royalty, could the Turin Papyrus be something broader, maybe even spiritual?
Well, that's a key question. To understand that, we really need to look at how sex fit into their religious beliefs, especially within the temples. They saw those as gateways to the afterlife, remember?
Right.
And if you look at the big picture, these sexuality and fertility aspects were tied into everything to do with death and funerary rituals.
But why is that?
Because for them, when you die, the idea is it's not the end of life. It's the beginning of a new life.
Okay, rebirth.
Exactly. A new life. Well, it starts with birth, which requires sex.
Makes sense. So even in temples.
Yeah, even in temples, which were mostly closed-off spaces, you find gods with huge erections, depictions of deities having sex, but it's usually much more coded, much more symbolically displayed.
Not like the showy, pornographic world of ancient Rome.
Precisely. It's more subtle, more symbolic.
Dr. Lisa Anik, an expert who studied tomb art for, 45 years?
Yeah, a real authority.
She talks about how scenes that look like just daily life parties, banquets and tomb chapels, they actually had a funerary purpose.
Right. They believed those images were instrumental in the act of being reborn.
She calls it sex in disguise,
I like that phrase.
representing the ideal occasion in real life, where the sexual activities that goes before any birth were essential for that rebirth.
And it's fascinating how these coded symbols work. The lotus flower, for instance, it's a
Okay.
huge symbol of resurrection. It probably also had narcotic properties, maybe enhancing the experience. And you see it everywhere in these scenes.
Ah.
It points to this consistent triangle: sexuality, music, and drunkenness. They really go together back then.
Just like today, maybe.
As it does today, exactly. Alcohol, music, greatly facilitating the initial steps towards sex.
That connection between rebirth, sex, symbols, it's powerful. And it even shows up on royal stuff, like Tutankhamun's clothes chest.
Yes, that 3,500-year-old chest. It
Yeah.
shows the king shooting bow and arrow. Right. And his wife, Ankhesenamun, is holding an arrow.
Okay, seems like a standard royal scene.
The Egyptian word seti, it means both shooting and to ejaculate.
Oh, yeah, that's correct.
It's a deliberate coded message, visualizing this very vital sexual energy which they needed to be reborn in the afterlife.
Okay.
And similarly, hunting in the marshes. That was another ancient Egyptian euphemism for having sex. You see it on the tomb wall of an accountant, Nebamun.
So these scenes aren't just about hunting or shooting.
No. These overtones of fertility, productivity, sensuality, they all combine in these images to suggest how you'd be reborn in the eternal life.
So back to the Turin Papyrus with its 12 positions. Could it relate to this world, the next world, the world of the gods?
That is very much debated at the moment. It's the big question.
And the gods themselves. Even the writing system, the hieroglyphs, had a sexual side.
Absolutely. The phallus hieroglyph, for example, is just a standard sign in the writing system.
What do you mean?
It could signify things like masculinity, aggression, fertility, and sexual power. Sex was just deeply ingrained into religious beliefs. The whole of Egyptian society is certainly based around sex in the sense that they understood its importance and its significance.
It goes even further, doesn't it? They're creation myths.
Oh, yeah. There's a papyrus from the British Museum showing gods performing sexual acts to actually create the world.
Like Geb, the earth god.
Exactly. Performing autofellatio to represent the Earth's self-sustaining, fertile nature.
It's hard to imagine putting something like that in, modern religious texts.
Definitely not. But for them, it was this piece of evidence revealing a magical and mystical aspect of their beliefs.
And you notice, the men in the Turin Papyrus, they're shown as exceptionally endowed.
Yes, very much like the god Geb in those myths.
So that artistic choice, it says something about their ideals of potency, fertility, how deep that ran.
It strongly suggests that, yes, potency was clearly linked to divinity and creation. And these symbols still hold power, don't they?
How so?
Well, at the Temple of Abydos, there's that famous image of Isis as a bird.
Right, on top of Osiris's erect phallus, symbolizing life and rebirth.
Exactly. And that scene is a lot more coded than some others. Isis is shown as a kite or a bird of prey, sort of denoting the gods are on a different level. But even today, that phallus symbol at Abydos, it's been either chipped out or people, especially women, touch it.
Why?
They're in search of the magic of the gods to help them, hoping to tap into that fertility, maybe even become pregnant.
Wow. So the connection between symbols, graphic images, and real-life fertility is still alive, in a way.
It perfectly illustrates that link. And for some ancient Egyptians, that link was very direct.
You mean the best chambers?
Exactly. Those 4 little rooms at Saqqara,
Yeah.
decorated with figures of Bes, the god of fertility, and naked women on the walls.
Who use them?
It seems they were used by people having trouble conceiving. Maybe they'd sleep there overnight, hoping Bes would help them conceive, or they'd seek advice from his priests.
So Bes was the go-to god for fertility issues.
He was key for conception, yes, but his role was broader. He was also the protector of pregnant women and young children, a kind of household familiar, even a bit of a comic character.
And rituals for childbirth involved him too.
Yes, things like magic wands to draw a protective circle around the mother and child. And these unique Bes masks. There's one in the Manchester Museum,
What were they for?
possibly worn by a priestess or a dancer during some kind of ritual dance to protect the household, protect the women.
And there's a theory about Bes tattoos.
Yeah, it's intriguing. Seen in murals and on fertility figurines, tattoos on a woman's abdomen might have been thought to protect the unborn child, maybe creating a kind of protective net as the stomach expanded.
Fascinating. But Bes wasn't just about babies and protection, was he?
Not at all. This is where it gets really fun. He was also the patron god of dancing, music, singing, getting drunk.
All the fun party aspects.
Exactly. Music and sex were very closely linked for them.
How do we see that?
Well, there's a 1300 BC blue bowl showing Bes tattooed on a musician's thigh. Think about modern belly dancers using coin belts to highlight sensuality. It's a similar idea, perhaps. And then there's the goddess Hathor, Ra's daughter. She was considered the most important deity in one's sexual life, goddess of both physical love and spiritual love.
Right. And she had that rattle, the sistrum.
Yes, the sistrum. Its sound signaled her presence, possibly even heralding a sexual act.
And didn't our reconstruction of the Turin Papyrus show a sistrum?
It did, which strongly suggests Hathor's presence, her influence, even in those very explicit scenes.
Okay, so we have gods, rituals, coded symbols, all tied to fertility and sex in a spiritual sense. But what about just everyday life? How did ordinary Egyptians feel about sex?
Right. Could the Turin Papyrus just be ancient porn?
Yeah, basically. For that, we need to look at Deir el-Medina again, that settlement near the Valley of the Kings.
The town where the tomb builders lived, it's seen as a real microcosm of Egyptian society.
A microcosm. Okay.
And the info we get from there is incredible. The site was called Set Mat, the place of truth.
The place of truth. I like that.
And it gives us this sense of, well, smut, adultery, really how people thought and felt about sex.
So these construction workers,
Yeah.
they worked hard.
Yep.
Like a 10-day week.
Grueling work, yeah. And the sources suggest they'd build up this sexual tension
Makes sense.
and then release themselves on their women when they got back. It gives us this glimpse maybe into their actual sex lives.
Or maybe.
Or maybe it's more of a kind of fantasy of this is the perfect sex that you'd get after that long 10-day week. You know, the ideal release.
Like an ancient version of Thank God It's Friday.
Exactly. Something like that.
Can we get more specific? Are there examples?
Oh, yes. There's a papyrus from the late New Kingdom, maybe 1500 BC. It describes the sexual antics of an artisan, sleeps with a married woman and her daughter,
Oh, okay.
who is then apparently passed on to his son. So pretty scandalous stuff even then.
Definitely. And what about those limestone shards, the ostraka?
Ah, the ostraka. They're amazing. Basically sketchbooks. Thousands found at Deir el-Medina.
What's on them?
Wonderful drawings, doodles, cartoons, and often erotic scenes.
Like what?
There's one showing a man and woman having sex, and the woman saying, "Calm now is the desire of my skin." And it seems almost like a sort of parody of the religious scenes you see on temple walls, bringing the sacred down to the everyday, maybe.
Interesting. Were these drawings like crude doodles or actual art?
Well, if you look at these pornographic drawings broadly, many are actually beautifully drawn, really high artistic quality, though, not all of them are masterpieces.
Sure.
Some images were clearly popular. There's one from the Cairo Museum, a man kneeling, a woman wrapping her thighs around his neck. It was obviously a favorite one, depicted so often.
And they depicted clothing in a suggestive way too, right?
Yes, those see-through clothes, women in these long linen garments that are drawn to create the impression that you can see through, clinging to the body.
So clearly showing an interest in the female form.
Absolute, no question about that.
And then there's their love poetry. That gives us another window, doesn't it, into their fantasies?
A huge window, dating back to maybe 1500 BC. The poems often describe men as kind of superheroes.
Okay.
And the ideal woman is often shown emerging wet from the Nile, her clothes clinging. Very evocative.
Is there a specific example?
Yes. There's one from Deir el-Medina, about 3,000 years old. It describes the lover's girlfriend, her perfect white breast, fingers like lotus flowers, her beauty resting in her thighs.
Wow.
And how all men turn their necks to look at her when she walks by.
That sounds like the ultimate ancient Egyptian male fantasy.
Pretty much sums it up. They're clearly very sensitive in how they express these things, and, if their words are anything to go by, then some of them were clearly very skilled lovers, too.
So if they had these appetites, these fantasies, did they also have, like, voyeuristic desires, like we see today?
That's a fascinating question, and it brings us right back to the Turin Erotic Papyrus.
Which was kept under lock and key for so long.
Right. A previous curator even put a table in front of it to stop people staring too closely. Experts like Bettany Hughes call it completely unique. She described it as basically Playboy magazine of the ancient world.
Playboy of the ancient world. And our reconstruction, filling in the damaged parts. What does it show overall?
It reveals these 12 erotic scenes, and interestingly, they often feature elderly men having a great time with young, beautiful Egyptian girls.
So the purpose is still debated. Is it a sex manual, religious text, satire?
All those theories are out there. The explicit scenes support the manual idea. The animal mimicry might suggest humor or satire. Its context is still really debated. What are some key points pushing these different ideas?
Well, the scenes themselves are undeniable, like the woman having sex on a chariot. That's a very rare image.
Very rare, and maybe conflating sex and violence, perhaps, just as we put the two together today, as one source notes.
And in one scene, the man is pulling the woman's hair.
Yes. And hair was apparently one of the most erotic things a woman could have, especially those elaborate wigs, since most Egyptians shaved their heads.
So wigs were sexy.
Very. There's even an Egyptian text that says, "Put your wig on and let's go to bed."
Get out!
Seriously. And being caught with your wig half done was like the equivalent of being caught naked.
Wow. Okay, what about the brothel theory?
Ah, yes, the ancient brothel theory. It's quite compelling when you look closely.
Why?
The papyrus shows these scantily clad young ladies, right? And they have lotus flowers on their heads.
Which means?
It symbolizes they're under the influence of the narcotic that could be extracted from the lotus flower. So maybe more receptive, open to enjoying the sexual act.
Okay.
So you have evidence of drugs, alcohol, music, and aging men.
Yeah.
It would be hard to imagine this was just a normal night out.
Right. Seems plausible.
And prostitution probably existed. I mean, it's the oldest profession in the world, right?
Yeah.
So the Turin Papyrus could very well be a story of a New Kingdom brothel in Thebes.
But maybe the biggest clue is the text written between the pictures.
Yes, those scraps of the conversation. They're fragmentary, but revealing.
Like the image of the woman pleasuring herself.
Right, on an ancient pot known as an amphora. And she's painting her lips, which was seen as erotic. Mirrors often had handles shaped like beautiful women.
And what does the text say?
It's broken, but she seems to be saying something like, "You give me nothing, so I've got to resort to this," implying to give her her orgasm.
Whoa.
And then she speaks to the old man nearby, the one with the huge engorged phallus, which is resting just next to the amphora.
What does she say to him?
Something along the lines of, "Come here, big boy, dirty boy, you kind of sex criminal."
Saucy.
Very. So when you put all that together,
Yeah.
the images, the text, the context,
It really does point towards being the world's oldest men's pornographic magazine.
it strongly suggests that. The artist clearly depicted sex with enormous enthusiasm and with lots of salacious detail. One expert compared the artist to those guys who used to whisper, "Hey, mister, you want to see dirty picture?"
Yeah.
It feels very much like a precursor of Playboy.
So after going through all this,
Yeah.
What's the big takeaway? What does it all mean for how we see ancient Egypt?
Well, we might never know exactly who made the Turin Papyrus or its precise purpose, but even 3,000 years later, experts agree it's one of the most important artifacts of antiquity.
It seems like it really opens a door.
It really does. If you connect it to the bigger picture, this amazing papyrus genuinely allows you to decode real Egyptian sexuality.
How so?
It shows us how the ancient Egyptians had sex, what they enjoyed doing, and what was just a little bit dangerous and naughty for them.
Right.
It gives us this stunning new view into the civilization that created it, sheds light on their afterlife beliefs, their fertility rituals, their attitudes to erotica.
It challenges that old view, the one dominated by mummies and myths.
Completely.
Yeah.
It offers a much more complete, much more intimate picture of sex in the ancient world.
Yeah, this whole deep dive has really shown how their beliefs about the afterlife, their fertility stuff, their surprisingly open attitudes towards sex,
Yeah.
it wasn't separate. It was all tangled up with everyday life.
Deeply intertwined.
Just a stunning new perspective.
Yeah.
And it makes them feel, in many ways, far more relatable than we might have imagined.
Absolutely. More human.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And maybe this leaves us with a provocative thought to chew on.
Okay.
If even 3,000 years ago, art and writing could capture such raw, intimate moments, everything from sacred symbols of rebirth to the saucy chat in an ancient Playboy, what hidden desires and expressions from our own time might actually shock people thousands of years from now?
That's a great question to ponder. What will they uncover about us?
Exactly. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep digging deeper.